Hi everyone. This year's OHDS Parenting Book of the Year is The Yes Brain. We had a great book club meeting last night and I thought we would take a few minutes to share some of what we talked about. So first I want to give you a little introduction to the basic concept of the yes brain. So when we're building a yes brain in our children, we are building flexibility, curiosity, resilience, openness to relationships, and we want to build a strong internal compass. Before we go into the 4 different approaches to doing that, I want to start by sharing a concept that I learned about from my mindfulness training a few years ago that I think is really, really helpful as a foundation. So that concept is the open circuit concept. As we know, brains are not fully developed until the mid-20s. And what this means is that a child's brain is by nature like an incomplete circuit. What we know about human beings is that we mimic each other to learn. So if you yawn, I yawn. If you smile, I smile. And that is part of how we develop and grow as humans. So a child's incomplete circuit is completed by the parent who steps in and provides something to mirror from. The child essentially borrows the parent's regulatory system as they learn to develop their own regulatory system. So when we work on ourselves, when we calm ourselves appropriately in stressful situations, and when our children are having a hard time and we provide calm for them, we are essentially lending themselves a well-developed regulatory system, and that helps them grow. So all the work that we do on ourselves is what helps our children, and when we're trying to help our children, we have to make sure we're thinking about ourselves at the same time. So there are 4 basic concepts brought up in the book. I'm going to try to go through all of these fairly quickly. The first one is that we're aiming to build balance in our children. This is emotional stability and self-regulation, kind of like what I just talked about. The book introduces something that's actually common vocabulary here at OHDS, which is the zones of regulation. We all go through different zones in our day. There's no wrong zone, but sometimes a zone isn't the right zone for a certain situation. So we sometimes need to just make regulatory decisions about which zone we want to try to move ourselves into. So blue zone will be sort of a low feeling. Maybe we're kind of removing ourselves. We may be more in a calm, quiet mode. Bedtime is a great time for the blue zone. The green zone, it would be sort of like in the middle of the day when we're feeling, God willing, pretty balanced, not too angry, not too removed. We're really able to be productive and work through problems in a balanced way. That's kind of our goal, to be in the green zone as much as possible during much of our day. The red zone is going to be a higher level of activity. So we may be ramped up, we may be a little hyper, we may be very emotional, potentially angry, and it might be harder for us to make decisions when we're in the red zone. Our goal when we're building balance in our children and students is to help them get back to the green zone, because that's the zone where we make good decisions. So the book shares a few different ideas around how we can help students with this and children with this. So one is just to make sure that we get enough sleep. We know that we're grumpier if we don't get enough sleep. Our children obviously have the same challenge, so getting enough sleep is really important. They also bring up this beautiful idea of the healthy mind platter, similar to a nutritional platter. We want to have a good balance of different kinds of mind states. So obviously sleep is one of those. We want to make sure to get enough physical activity. Playtime is important, not just for kids, for all of us. Certainly we have focused time in our day where we're doing productive, focused work. We need connection time, we need downtime, and we also need time in. And this is reflective time where we're really thinking about ourselves, noticing things, reflecting on our day or on our relationships. All of those things need to happen. Now, all of these things happen in a school day, and when our students get home, they may need to also have this kind of balance. We want to make sure we're not over-scheduling our children. And so that's one of the things that the book recommends, is making sure we have a really balanced schedule. There are so many great activities to do in the world, but sometimes just having some downtime, some quiet time at home is going to be more important than taking that extra lesson because we want to have a healthy mind platter. The second foundation concept as we're building a yes brain in our children is to build resilience. So resilience is the ability to move through challenges with strength. And the big idea here is that we want to expand the green zone. Some children are born with a pretty wide green zone. They just handle a lot of different situations and they seem to be pretty balanced and calm. But a lot of children need help stretching that green zone, and it's something that we can work on intentionally. So one of the core concepts is that we have to remember as parents and educators, and this is a very important thing to come back to over and over again, I relearn this all the time, is that behavior is communication. We may be tempted to react to a child who is angry because they didn't get their way, or is challenged by making a transition, or who's getting into a fight with their siblings. What we need to do when we're really being mindful, parents and educators, is that we have to remember it's communication when they behave in a way we don't like. And we need to listen to the message and then think about what's the skill that this child doesn't have. Maybe they need help with transitions. Maybe there's a social skill there that they haven't quite developed yet. So we listen to the message, we work on getting them back into the green zone, and then we work on building the skill. So in order to get back into the green zone, because that's the only place where learning happens, we don't learn when we're angry. We don't learn when we're really sad. We have to first address the feelings, get back to the green zone, then we can learn. So before we do all that processing and teaching, we start by returning to the green zone. And we do that by providing a sense of safety for the child, soothing, seeing the child. Sometimes we need to give the child space. Older kids oftentimes just need some space. And we notice, is the child looking calmer, right? We might give them a hug and let them cry in our arms. We might validate the feelings and just say, you're really angry at your brother right now, aren't you? And just let them calm down and feel seen. And then once they're in the green zone, we can do reflective thinking and perspective taking. That's when they can start to learn, think about how to fix the problem, how to make up with the brother, that kind of thing. Okay, so the third concept introduced in the book for building a yes brain is insight. Insight is the ability to look within and to make good choices. And I really loved this metaphor of the player and the spectator. So when I'm going through a whole lot of feelings, I'm the player on the field. And when I reflect on those feelings and kind of take a little distance from those feelings and make sense of the feelings, I'm the spectator. And there's this idea that we can kind of build the ability to do both, and that will help us to regulate as we go through hard things. So I might be really upset with my child for breaking something, but I might also be able to kind of notice myself in that moment and say, you're getting really upset about this. Was that thing they broke such a big deal? Or maybe it wasn't even their fault. Maybe I should put it in the wrong place. And so that I'm not just reacting with my own feelings, but also noticing the bigger situation to help me make choices about how I respond. And the really powerful concept here is that the power is in the pause. When we stop, and when we help our children stop and notice their feelings, notice their body before they react, we help them avoid going to the red zone, and that is an amazing tool for them. So finding different ways to pause. Every child is going to have a different way that they like to pause. It might be walking away from the situation or just taking some deep breaths, getting a hug. Whatever it is, starting to notice where the pause is needed so that they can make better choices. The fourth concept is empathy. So this is really building this awareness that it's not just about me. I'm in a bigger world with people who have needs as well. We think sometimes that empathy is just something you're born with or not, but the truth is it is something that can be learned and practiced. So one of the tools is to develop an empathy radar. And this is something we can do by thinking together about how others may be feeling. And this can be done, simply like it's a cold day and maybe we have a conversation. I wonder what this cold day is like for people who don't have a home. I wonder how someone else is feeling as we're sitting at this Thanksgiving dinner and they don't have a family to be with, or that person who's sick and isn't able to participate in that fun activity. I wonder what that's like for them. What might they need right now? And that just helps build this awareness of others over time. And then this last concept is that we want to expand the circle of concern. So not just feeling empathy for people that are in our family or people that are in our friendship group, but also just about people we don't even know. And one of the ways that we can do this is by volunteering with our children to do, chesed for other people. When we read the news together or process some of the things that are going out there in the world, that we think about those from a place of empathy, and that really can build this sense of like, I'm part of this bigger world, and I feel for others in the world, and I feel like I can take action to help them. So those are some of the things that we learned. I definitely recommend the book, and I think there's a lot of powerful information and some good reminders, and as well as lots of validation, as well as tips for how to address these issues with our children directly. And if anybody wants to talk about any of this further, I'm always happy to talk about how we build strength in our students. Thank you, and Shabbat Shalom.